Have you ever sat in a crowded room, smiling, talking, yet deep inside, felt completely alone? It's strange, isn't it? We can be surrounded by people, yet our hearts feel empty. And so we keep searching through relationships, through approval, through endless social connections, hoping someone will finally make us feel whole. But here's the paradox. The more we look for happiness in others, the further we drift from the greatest treasure we already carry inside. Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This is not just a beautiful saying, it's a key to a kind of joy that no one can give you and no one can take away. Today, I want to take you into that quiet place we often avoid, the space of being alone. Because what if solitude isn't emptiness, but the doorway to the most powerful, unshakable joy you will ever know? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might never see being alone the same way again. We live in a world that rewards noise, social media feeds, group chats, endless notifications. We are told that being connected is the same as being fulfilled. But here's the truth most people never realize. Not all company is good company. In Buddhism, there's a teaching. It's better to be alone than to be in the company of those who pull you away from your true path. When you choose solitude over meaningless relationships, you step away from drama, negativity, and emotional noise. In that quiet space, your mind begins to clear, like a lake with still water. You can hear your own thoughts again. You can feel your own heart. And in that clarity, wisdom begins to grow. Now, here's the part most people fear: loneliness. We're taught to see it as something dangerous, a sign that something's wrong with us. But Buddhism reframes it completely. Being alone is not something to fear. It's an opportunity to meet yourself without distraction. When you stop running from that silence, you realize you are already enough. You don't need constant validation. You don't need someone else to complete you. That realization is freedom. Think about it. How many of our mistakes come from the fear of being alone? We stay in relationships that drain us. We agree to things we don't believe in. We say yes when our heart is screaming no. But when you know you can stand on your own, you stop clinging. You start choosing. And suddenly, life feels lighter. Solitude is also the perfect ground for self-discovery. In the absence of other people's opinions, you can ask, what do I truly love? What values guide my life? What kind of person do I want to become? These are questions that can only be answered in stillness. And then comes another gift: independence. Not the kind that isolates you from the world, but the kind that makes you strong within it. When you learn to rely on yourself for peace, you stop chasing it in other people. You can still love deeply, still connect, still belong, but your happiness is no longer at the mercy of someone else's mood or approval. One of the most beautiful shifts happens when you start seeing your individuality as a strength. You're no longer afraid to walk a path that's different from the crowd. You stop comparing your life to everyone else's highlight reel. You stand in your truth, knowing that your journey is uniquely yours, and that's what makes it beautiful. Here's what I've learned. Solitude is not the absence of love, but the presence of self-love. It's the space where you recharge, where you remember who you are, and where you grow roots so deep that no storm can shake you. So the next time life gives you a quiet moment, don't rush to fill it. Sit with it, listen, because somewhere in that stillness, you might just hear the voice you've been searching for all along. And in that voice, you will find the kind of joy that can never be lost. Part 1. Choose solitude over meaningless relationships. I want to tell you about Sarah. She's 38. From the outside, she seems to have it all. Plenty of friends, an active social life, her phone buzzing every few minutes with group chats and invitations. But late at night, when the noise dies down, Sarah feels this heaviness. It's not exactly sadness. It's more like a quiet emptiness she can't explain. And deep down, she knows half of these friendships are just noise. Some of them drain her energy. Others make her doubt herself. One day, after yet another lunch where the conversation was nothing but gossip and complaints, she asked herself a question she'd been avoiding for years. Why am I keeping people in my life who make me feel worse after I see them? It's not an easy question, because letting go can feel like failure. We're told from a young age that being surrounded by people is a sign of success. That being liked means we're valuable. But Buddhism teaches something different. It's better to walk alone than to be with those who lead you away from your path. Sarah didn't cut everyone off overnight. Instead, she started by saying no more often. No to the dinner plans that left her exhausted. No to the phone calls that were just an hour of venting and negativity. And at first, it was scary. The silence was uncomfortable. She wondered if she was being selfish or cold. But here's what happened next. Without the constant background noise, her mind started to clear. She noticed small things again. The way morning sunlight hit her coffee cup, the sound of birds outside her window. Her thoughts felt sharper. She could actually hear her own voice, not just the opinions of everyone else. That's the power of choosing solitude over meaningless relationships. It's not about shutting the world out. It's about protecting your inner world so it can stay clear, strong, and steady. When you surround yourself with people who drain you, it's like trying to keep a candle lit in a windstorm. But when you step away from that wind, even for a little while, the flame grows steady again. And here's the thing, when your inner light is steady, you naturally attract people who respect it. The ones who come into your life aren't there to take your energy, but to share in it. If you've ever felt like Sarah, trapped in a circle of noise, afraid of what might happen if you step back, maybe this is your sign to pause, to ask yourself, honestly, who in my life lifts me up? Who drains me? And what would happen if I created a little more space for myself? Choosing solitude is an act of courage. It's saying, my peace matters. And in that space, you might just find a deeper clarity than you've ever known. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear in the comments. Have you ever walked away from a relationship that no longer felt right? What did you discover in the space that followed? And if you know someone who's struggling with this, maybe share this video with them. It might be the reminder they need today. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is sit alone and realize you're already enough. Part 2. Befriending yourself. You are already enough. There was a time when Mark couldn't stand being alone. If a weekend came with no plans, he would panic scrolling through his phone, sending, "Hey, what's up?" to friends he hadn't spoken to in months, just to fill the empty hours. Because deep down, being alone made him feel incomplete, like he was missing a piece of himself that only other people could provide. But one evening, after a canceled dinner and a quiet apartment, he decided to try something different. Instead of running from the silence, he sat with it. No television, no music, just him. At first, it felt awkward. His mind kept reaching for distractions. But then, something shifted. He noticed how tired he'd been carrying the weight of pretending to be someone he thought others would like. He realized he didn't even know the sound of his own thoughts without other voices layered over them. Buddhism teaches, when you stop looking outside for completion, you begin to see you were whole all along. So Mark started spending more time with himself, not in loneliness, but in companionship. He went for walks without his phone. He cooked dinner for one, but plated it beautifully, as if he were serving a guest. He started a small journal not to impress anyone, but to have a conversation with his own heart. And here's the thing, when you truly accept yourself, you stop needing the world's constant approval. You see your strengths without arrogance. You see your weaknesses without shame. You realize you can be a safe place for yourself. It's like becoming your own best friend, the kind of friend who celebrates your little wins, who forgives your mistakes, who never leaves, no matter how bad a day gets. And once Mark found that connection, something surprising happened. He still enjoyed spending time with others, but it was no longer from a place of need. It was from a place of choice. He didn't cling to people. He already felt whole, and that wholeness made his relationships deeper, lighter, more real. If you've ever caught yourself scrolling just to avoid being alone, or saying yes to plans you don't even want, maybe it's worth asking, what would it feel like to spend one evening truly with yourself? To make your favorite meal, light a candle, and really listen to your own thoughts? You might discover a version of yourself you've been too busy to meet. The truth is, you are already enough. No one else can give you the completeness you're searching for, because it's not missing. It's been here all along, waiting for you to notice. If this message speaks to you, tell me in the comments what's one thing you enjoy doing alone, just for yourself. And if you know someone who's struggling with the fear of being alone, maybe share this video with them. Sometimes, the reminder that we are already whole is exactly what a person needs to hear. Because once you make peace with yourself, you'll never really be alone again. Part 3. Overcoming the fear of loneliness. There's a certain kind of silence that can feel heavy. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that makes the room feel too big and the night feel too long. For years, that silence was terrifying, because in it, there was nowhere to hide from my own thoughts, from my own doubts. It felt like staring into a mirror that showed every insecurity I'd tried to bury. So I kept myself busy, surrounded by people. Even if the conversations were shallow, even if I didn't really want to be there. Anything just to avoid that feeling of being alone. But here's what no one told me, that fear wasn't actually about loneliness. It was about not knowing myself. Because the truth is, if you're a stranger to your own heart, being alone will always feel like abandonment. One evening, the noise stopped. Not because I wanted it to, but because life made it so, plans fell through. The phone stayed silent. And there I was, just me, the ticking of the clock, and the weight of my own company. At first, I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. But instead of running from it, I stayed. I let the silence speak. And slowly, it began to tell me things about the fears I'd ignored, the dreams I'd shelved, the parts of myself I'd neglected because I thought they didn't matter. That's when I realized loneliness isn't an enemy. It's an invitation, an opening to step into the deepest rooms of your own soul. Buddhism teaches that when we stop clinging to others to fill our emptiness, we discover the well of peace already within us. And the moment you see that, something changes. You stop fearing the quiet. You stop seeing it as a void. You start seeing it as space. Space to breathe. Space to feel. Space to simply be. And here's the beauty. Once you make peace with solitude, you also make peace with the people in your life. You're no longer chained to them out of fear. You choose them out of love. You can let them go if you must, and still feel whole. If right now you're carrying that ache, that deep discomfort with being alone, maybe this is the sign to pause. To put down the distractions for just one evening. Sit with yourself, even if it feels strange. Listen to what rises up in the silence. You might find that what you feared wasn't the loneliness itself. It was the truth waiting to meet you there. And if this thought touches something in you, leave a comment below. Tell me, what have you learned about yourself in your quietest moments? Share this with someone who might be running from their own silence. Because sometimes, all it takes is one reminder. You are not empty. You are not incomplete. And the day you stop fearing your own company, that's the day you become truly free. Part 4. The Power of Independence. There comes a point in life when you realize no one is coming to save you. Not in a cold, hopeless way, but in the quiet understanding that your happiness, your peace, it's yours to create. For a long time, I didn't see it that way. I thought love meant leaning on someone completely. I thought security meant having someone else fix the cracks in my life. But every time I handed my peace over to someone else's hands, it slipped away the moment they did. One afternoon, I remember standing in my kitchen, staring at a sink full of dishes and a head full of problems. And I thought, I wish someone would just tell me what to do. But no one did. The only voice I could hear was my own. It was in that moment I understood. If I wanted a life that felt whole, I had to build it, brick by brick, decision by decision. So I started small, fixing what I could, facing problems I used to avoid, learning to trust that I could make the right call, even if it scared me. The Buddha once taught that the greatest refuge is in yourself. When you rely too much on others to steady you, you forget how to stand. But when you plant your own feet firmly on the ground, the storms may come, and you'll still remain. Being independent doesn't mean shutting people out. It means welcoming them in without needing them to carry your entire weight. It means sharing your life from a place of fullness, not desperation. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop depending on others for your sense of peace, your relationships transform. You no longer cling out of fear. You connect out of choice. You give without silently keeping score. There's a freedom in that. The freedom to make decisions without waiting for permission. The freedom to solve your own problems and know you can handle whatever comes. If right now you're feeling stuck, maybe this is your reminder. You're far more capable than you think. Every time you choose to face something on your own, you're building a strength that no one can take from you. And the truth is, no one else can live your life for you. No one else can walk your path. That's not a burden. That's your greatest power. So if these words resonate with you, let me know in the comments what's one moment where you surprised yourself with your own strength. Share this with someone who might need a little push to trust themselves again. Because, at the end of the day, independence isn't about walking alone. It's about walking with yourself fully, confidently, and knowing that no matter where you go, you already carry everything you need. Part 5. Solitude, a space for self-discovery. There's a kind of quiet that feels heavy. The kind that makes the clock tick louder and the room feel bigger. For years, I feared that quiet. I thought it meant something was missing. But I've learned, solitude isn't a void. It's a mirror. When you're alone, there's no chorus of voices telling you who to be. No constant stream of expectations pulling you in every direction. It's just you and the truth you've been carrying all along. At first, it can feel uncomfortable, like sitting with a stranger. You might notice thoughts you've been ignoring, dreams you've been burying, even pain you've been avoiding for years. I remember a weekend when everyone I knew was busy and I had no plans. Old me would have rushed to fill the time, scrolling, calling, distracting. But that day, I didn't. I sat with myself. And in the stillness, I began to ask questions I had never truly faced. What do I actually want? Not what my friends want. Not what my family expects. What do I want? It was strange and freeing. Because without anyone else's voice in my ear, my own voice grew clearer. That's the hidden gift of solitude. It strips away the noise. You start to see the passions that light you up, the values that feel unshakable, the things that matter, not because they look good to the world, but because they feel right in your soul. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." When you stop chasing validation and start listening to your own heart, you discover a well of calm that no one can touch. And here's the thing. When you know yourself deeply, you live differently. You choose work that feels meaningful, even if it's not impressive on paper. You spend time with people who nourish you, not just people who need you. You stop saying yes to things that drain your spirit. Solitude becomes less about being without others and more about being fully with yourself. If you're afraid of being alone right now, maybe try this. Instead of filling the silence, lean into it. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Write down the answers, even if they scare you. Because those answers, they're the map to your most authentic life. And if this resonates with you, share it. Not because I'm asking, but because someone you love might be drowning in noise and not even know it. Leave a comment. What's one thing you've discovered about yourself in solitude? Remember, the goal isn't to escape the world forever. It's to know yourself so well that when you step back into it, you're unshakable, rooted, clear, alive. Part 6. Valuing personal worth and uniqueness. There was a time I thought blending in was the safest thing I could do. Dress like everyone else. Think like everyone else. Want what everyone else wanted. It felt easier until it didn't. One day, I caught my reflection in a store window and almost didn't recognize myself. Not because I'd changed my hair or my clothes, but because I realized I'd been wearing a mask for years. A mask of who I thought I should be. We live in a world that constantly tells us, fit in, don't stand out too much, follow the script. And it's tempting because acceptance feels good. But there's a hidden cost. The more you hide your true self, the further you drift from the life that was meant for you. Think about it, every person you've ever admired, truly admired, was different. They didn't just accept their uniqueness, they leaned into it. They spoke with their own voice, walked their own path. And because of that, they connected with others in ways that felt real. I learned this the hard way. There was a period when I tried to match my friends' choices, same career path, same weekend routines, even the same opinions. But deep inside, I felt hollow, like I was living someone else's story. It wasn't until I started honoring what made me different that my life began to feel like mine again. I realized I'm more introverted than most of my friends, and that's not a flaw. It means I notice details others miss. It means I listen deeply. It means I connect in quieter, more meaningful ways. And here's the beauty. When you live from that place, your real self, you naturally attract the people who are meant to walk beside you. Relationships stop being about proving your worth and start being about sharing your truth. The Buddha taught that comparison is a thief of joy, but acceptance, deep acceptance, opens the door to compassion, both for yourself and for others. When you stop forcing yourself into a mold, you also stop forcing others into one. That's when connection becomes genuine. So, I have to ask, how much of your life right now is truly yours? How much is shaped by what you think you're supposed to be? If you're nodding quietly because this feels uncomfortably familiar, you're not alone. I've been there. And I can tell you, the moment you choose to honor your individuality, you start building a life that fits you like your favorite well-worn sweater. Comfortable, warm, yours. If this message touches something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments what's one part of yourself you've learned to embrace, even if it's different. Because your differences aren't obstacles. They are the landmarks that guide you home. Part 7. Alone time for energy restoration. I used to think being busy meant I was living fully. Every hour filled, every moment accounted for. If I stopped, even for a day, I feared I'd fall behind. But my body knew before my mind did. This pace wasn't sustainable. I remember sitting at my desk one evening, the glow of the computer screen blurring my vision, my heart heavy for no obvious reason. It wasn't sadness exactly, it was emptiness. Like my spirit had quietly stepped away, leaving my body to keep going without it. That's when I realized something simple, but life-changing. Just like our bodies need sleep, our minds need space. Not more noise, not more stimulation, but stillness. It's strange, isn't it? We live in a time where doing nothing is almost frowned upon. If you're not answering emails, scrolling, watching, listening, you're wasting time. But in truth, that quiet space is where the real healing happens. The Buddha once taught that peace is not found by adding more to our lives, but by removing what is unnecessary. And solitude, real solitude, does exactly that. It clears the clutter. It lets the soul breathe. I learned to take short walks without my phone, to sit by the window in the early morning, just watching how the light shifts across the floor. At first, my mind protested. It would pull me toward to-do lists, conversations, worries. But slowly, I began to feel something return. Energy. Not the jittery rush of caffeine or adrenaline, but a deep, steady current, like the gentle flow of a river after the storm clouds have passed. When you give yourself permission to be alone, not in loneliness, but in presence, you start to notice things you've been too tired to see. The sound of your own breath, the way your shoulders release tension without you even telling them to, the quiet knowing in your chest that says, "You're okay. You always were." This isn't about avoiding the world. It's about coming back to it with a full heart instead of a drained one. Because every interaction we have, every decision we make, is colored by the state of our inner world. When I stopped running on empty, I noticed my conversations changed. I listened better. I reacted with more patience. Even the small moments like making tea or folding laundry felt softer, almost sacred. So if you've been feeling worn down lately, ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself a true pause? Not a distraction, not a quick break before diving back in, but real, nourishing stillness. And if you're willing, I'd love for you to share in the comments what's one quiet ritual that helps you restore your energy. Maybe it's walking in nature. Maybe it's lighting a candle. You never know who might read your words and find exactly what they need today. Because here's the truth. Your energy is not infinite, but it can be renewed. And solitude is one of the most generous gifts you can give yourself. Part 8. Silence leads to deep wisdom. There was a time when my mind felt like a crowded marketplace. Thoughts rushing, opinions shouting, memories, fears, and what-ifs, all talking over each other. From the outside, I looked calm enough. But inside, it was chaos. And every decision I made came from that noise. One day, a friend invited me to sit in silence for 10 minutes. Just 10. I laughed because how could 10 minutes possibly make a difference? But I agreed. At first, the silence felt unbearable. My thoughts didn't stop. They got louder, like waves crashing against the shore, one after another. I wanted to get up, to check my phone, to do something. But then, something shifted. It was subtle, almost like the way the air changes before sunrise. My breathing slowed. The voices in my head grew quieter. And for the first time in a long time, I could see my thoughts instead of drowning in them. In that quiet space, problems that once felt impossible began to look different. Not smaller, but clearer. I could see which ones truly mattered and which ones were just echoes of fear. Buddhist teachings say that wisdom is not something we chase. It's something that arises when the mind is still enough to notice the truth. And I felt that truth. It wasn't a lightning bolt of insight. It was more like a gentle lantern in a dark room, revealing what had been there all along. When our minds are restless, even small decisions feel heavy. But when the mind is quiet, the heart can speak. And the heart rarely speaks in complicated words, it speaks in simple knowing. That's when I realized stillness is not the absence of life. It's the foundation of it. From stillness, we choose with more clarity. We speak with more kindness. We act with more intention. Since then, I've made it a practice not just to sit in silence, but to return to it whenever I feel lost. Sometimes it's while sipping tea. Sometimes it's watching raindrops slide down a window. The world doesn't stop moving. And here's the beautiful part. The more I practice this, the more I notice wisdom showing up in the smallest places. In a stranger's smile, in the pause before responding during an argument, in the ability to say no without guilt, or yes without fear. If you've been searching for answers lately, maybe the next step isn't to look harder. Maybe it's to stop looking for a moment, to let the water of your mind settle until it becomes clear enough to see the bottom. I'd love to know, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be completely still? Not scrolling, not multitasking, just present. Share it in the comments. Your story might be the gentle reminder someone else needs to hear today. Because in the end, wisdom doesn't come from doing more. It comes from seeing more clearly. And to see clearly, we must first be still. Conclusion. There's a quiet kind of joy that comes from being alone. Not the heavy kind that feels like isolation. Not the aching silence that makes you count the hours, but the gentle, steady kind that feels like finally coming home to yourself. You see, being alone doesn't mean you're running away from the world. It means you're giving yourself the space to breathe, to listen, to remember who you are without the noise of everyone else's opinions. For years, I thought happiness depended on being surrounded by people. That without constant conversation, without plans on my calendar, something was wrong with me. But the truth is, when you're constantly filling the air with other voices, you stop hearing your own. It wasn't until I learned to sit with myself, no distractions, no agenda, that I discovered something I didn't know I was missing. A fullness, a quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. When you feel whole on the inside, relationships stop being a way to complete you and start becoming a way to share what's already overflowing. Your connections get healthier. Your boundaries get stronger. Your days get lighter. It's like tending a garden inside yourself. If the soil is rich, the plants grow without struggle. If your heart is nourished, love flows naturally without fear of running out. But here's the thing, this doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small moments you choose to keep for yourself. A walk without headphones. A meal eaten slowly, with no rush to get somewhere else. Even 5 minutes of simply sitting, feeling your own breath, letting your thoughts settle like snow in a glass globe. And slowly, the loneliness you once feared transforms. It stops feeling like an empty room and starts feeling like a safe sanctuary you can always return to. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true peace isn't found by controlling the world around you. It's found by calming the world within you. And when you do that, you carry that calm wherever you go, even in the busiest places, even in the middle of life's storms. I'm not saying you'll never feel lonely again. We're human. Loneliness is part of the landscape. But when you learn to welcome it, to sit beside it like an old friend, it loses its power to hurt you. It becomes a teacher, one that reminds you how strong, how complete you already are. So the next time you find yourself alone, maybe don't rush to fill the silence. Maybe let it stretch out. Listen. Notice what rises to the surface when there's nothing left to distract you. You might be surprised at the person you meet there. You might realize they've been waiting for you for a very long time. And if this thought makes you think of someone in your life, someone who's been avoiding their own company, maybe share this with them. Sometimes all it takes is one gentle reminder to see solitude not as a prison, but as a doorway. Because here's the truth I wish someone had told me sooner. Loneliness, when welcomed, is not a weakness. It's a source of power. It's a well of peace you can draw from again and again. And once you discover that, you're never truly alone again.